How did they get all of this into something as small as this? Welcome to another episode of Aston1936.com. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about a new OBDII tool that was introduced to me by Wyman Lee. I met Wyman a few years ago at the AMOC West get-together in the summer of 2018. That was before COVID. You may have seen some videos on the site here about that. Well, at that event, Wyman introduced me to Joseph Choi. Joseph works at Black Box My Car. They're a leading electronics provider for dash cams and other tools for cars. Well, one of their things that they're selling now is a ThinkDiag. As an aficionado of various OBDII tools that you can use with your Aston Martin, I'm interested in learning about any new tool that comes out that can speak actual native Aston Martin codes. There's hundreds of OBDII tools, but most can't talk to an Aston Martin. The ThinkDiag can, and this is what got me interested. So Joseph was kind enough to send me one, and I have one here. This is not going to be an unboxing video. This is not going to be a sales video. I'm really only interested in what can this tool do with an Aston Martin, and is it better than some of the other tools that are available that I've used so far. Now I can already tell you there's some pros and cons for the device, but there's some really special features that I want to share with you, so it's going to be worth your while. The device itself is one of the things that sets it apart. Most OBD tools like this Foxwell, that was my current favorite, it's a handheld device. You hook it up to the OBD2 port. You're kind of constrained by the length of the cable. Well, what's neat about the ThinkDiag that really got me interested as well is that it's Bluetooth based. So basically I plug the device in onto the OBD port, and then I'm going to be using my smartphone and an app to operate it. And that's a tremendous freedom. I'll be able to be under the hood looking at data. I'll be able to be under the car. I could look at live data. So having it as an app-based, I think, is a real advantage. So we're going to put that to some use here in the next few minutes. Let me show you a little bit about the device. It comes in a simple box. Don't throw the box away though, because there is a serial number on the box that you're going to use as part of the activation. Inside the box, though, there is also some paperwork you're going to want to hang on to. In particular, there is a serial number and an activation code. So the device itself has a standard OBD connector on the end, and this plastic ring around here is going to glow when we've plugged it into the car. It's going to tell us a little bit about its communication status. And that's really about all there is to the device. It's super simple and straightforward. Now, what's not straightforward was the software setup part. You'll go over and download the ThinkCar app to your smartphone. It's available for Android and iOS. Getting the app was no problem, but you have to create an account, and then you're going to feed it that activation code and serial number to link the device to the account. Well, I had trouble getting my account set up. Honestly, there's room for improvement there. I'm not really going to go into all the details here. If you go over to my companion blog article, I'll have a little bit more about where I ran into problems and how I solved it. But it's worth going through the trouble. You're going to be rewarded, so take your time, work through it, get your account set up, get your app working and talking to your ThinkDiag. And that's where what I'm going to expect is that for the next parts of the video, you're going to have the app working and it's already able to talk to the device. So before we jump in the car and just start using the device, I've wanted to stop and think, what's an Aston Martin owner really going to want to do using a ThinkDiag? Well, first and foremost, we're going to want to access Diagnostic Trouble Codes, DTCs. We're going to want to view the error codes. We're going to want to be able to understand them. We're going to want to be able to clear them. We're going to want to be able to save them. So we're going to want to be able to do all those things with the error codes that we're used to seeing from an OBDII type device. Would be really nice if we could do that in plain English. Cheap OBDII scanners just give you a P code, P0300. and then it's up to you to figure out what the heck that means. Well, we know that P0300 or P300 is a general misfire error condition. Well, it'd be nice if it said that, that it was a misfire condition, or if it's a P1422, which is the fuse 22 is pulled from the exhaust bypass, well, that it would tell us that that's what that is. So plain English descriptions of what the P codes are. It'd be neat if it had some sort of way to link to an online resource for the P codes, so that while you're sitting there in your car and you're trying to figure out what that is, could it just do that job for you and like link to Google and stuff like that. It'd be nice to access, particularly on the V12 cars, the misfire data for the engine. Aston Martins have misfire monitors that monitor for each cylinder whether it's misfiring. It'd be nice if we can get in there and get some of that data. There's certainly a lot of buzz on that on the internet right now about the V12s and misfires. Also interested in accessing live data. So if you've seen my video on changing the transmission fluid in the car, you have to do one of the final steps of that, monitoring the real-time transmission fluid temperature. Well, you can do that if you can talk to the transmission control module. It's one of the variables in there. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to have that open on my phone, stand underneath the car or when I'm doing the work, and be able to see the real-time temperature. We also wanted to be able to reset the service due light on the dash when we do our annual service. Another issue that I've already mentioned that's unique to Aston Martin V12s is that there are two engine computers, a primary one that runs the right-hand bank of cylinders and a secondary computer that runs the left-hand bank of cylinders. Your generic OBD2 tools don't understand that. Well, I certainly hope that this will be able to talk to both computers simultaneously and give me a picture of all the error codes in the V12 engine, not just half of it like most of the cheap scanners do. That's a pretty wide spectrum of things. Let's go see if it can actually do it. Well, as I mentioned, one of the great features of this is that since it's a small device, it's one of the few things in the world that can actually fit in an Aston Martin DB9 glove box. So you can have it with you while you're on the road. And if a diagnostic code pops up, your check engine light turns on and you're worried, you'd be able to just fire up the app on your phone and plug the device in wherever you are. So you can just always have it with you. It doesn't have to be back in your toolbox at the shop. The next thing we need to do is get the ThinkDiag connected to the car. In any other car, pretty much, this would be a no-brainer. You would hook it up to the OBD2 port. Well, Aston Martins have two OBD2 ports. One called the OBD2 port that's for talking to the engine control computers and a limited amount of the transmission control module. Then it has another OBD2 port. It's called the body port. The body port is how you communicate with the instrument cluster, the transmission, the brake module, the door modules, the seat modules. There's 13 control modules, I think, that are in an Aston Martin DB9. So most of those, except for the powertrain, are connected through the body port. So the two ports on my left-hand drive DB9 are down here in the footwell. For this example, I'm going to hook this up to the OBD2 port that's for the engine. So that's the left hand of the two. And we just basically get underneath and we plug it into the port. And it beeps as it powers up. The OBD2 ports always have power, and it's turned green. So basically the LED ring has turned glowing green. That means it's ready to communicate with the application. So then if you fire up your smartphone and launch the ThinkDiag app and tell it to begin Bluetooth communication, it starts to communicate with the device and the green ring turns blue. So basically the app and the device are chatting up a storm and we're ready to start using the tool. Certain functions though, when we're in the application, are going to require to be hooked to either the OBD port for the powertrain or the body port for the other modules. So when you run a full system scan, it can only be hooked to one or the other. So if it's connected to the OBD port, which is for the powertrain, it's only going to be able to scan the engine computers and the transmission module, perhaps. All the other modules will be listed as non-present. You move it over to the body port run a health check, and it'll be able to scan all the modules except for the engine computers. So you're going to have to do a little extra duty here depending on what you're interested in the car. It just can't get it all in one shot, but that's okay. It's pretty cool. So let's check out what else we can do with it. One thing to make you aware of though is that the OBD2 port, since it's always powered up, is not where you want to leave the device. You want to disconnect it from the car when it's not in use. If you leave that plugged in all the time, it will drain your battery overnight. So it's constantly consuming power. So don't store it plugged into the OBD2 port. Stick it in the glove box. All right, let's get started using the app. The first tip is you need to have the car in the on position. So put the key in, turn it all the way to the on position, but you don't need to start the car. Basically, you need to have the car on so that all those electronic modules and the doors and seats and everything are powered up. Just sitting with the key off, most of them aren't. The next thing we do is just fire up the app on our smartphone. So let's open the ThinkDiag app next. And here we are at the main screen. It's a little busy for my taste. It's not all about getting to work on what we want from my car. At the top, there's a Hi Aston 1936 My Device Gadgets Report section. But then really some of the rest of the screen isn't dedicated just to working on the car, like maintenance functions if we go in there. If you paid for any extra modules that they sell, it's basically, this is kind of sales on resetting brake bleeding and brake stuff and EGR valves. It doesn't really apply at all to the Aston Martin. OBD functions, well, this will function as a generic OBD reader that isn't specific to a car. So you can always use it as a generic OBD reader. Down here, TPMS, that's if you have one of their TPMS add-on module things. The Think Easy, again, it's a battery tester. So basically, along the bottom, there's a shopping cart for buying more things. There's a community section where you can talk to people. There's a points section, where you can look at how many of their points. But if you're really here just to get to work on your car, you're really going to use the car all systems diagnostics. And if you notice up in the top right hand corner here, there's a little tiny Bluetooth symbol. So if we punch the Bluetooth symbol, it's going to reach out now and it's going to try to find the module on the car, which it did. And essentially we want to go to car all systems diagnostic. This is basically where we're going to tell it, let's talk to my Aston and see what's going on. Once you get in here, there's two ways you can get the app to launch. You could scroll down to basically and look at the software that you've purchased. Well, you can see here Aston Martin is available, or you could use their convenient VIN decoding tool, which I'm going to try. And basically it's going to reach out and try and talk to the car, find the VIN, and look up the model of car and see if it can understand what type of car it is and automatically pick the right software to talk to it. And the software has started. It's figured out it's a 2005 Aston Martin DB9. And at the bottom now it says it's a DB9 Coupe, automatic transmission, left-hand drive, model year 2005, build number 1906. Aha! Well, it has learned many things about my car already. So let's say OK. Next, it's going to go and basically download some diagrams to help us understand where the OBD ports are. Remember, as I was mentioning, it's Aston Martins have 2 OBD ports. Well, it's trying to give us a little tip to know where to look for them. Then I'm going to hit the top left, the back button. And now we're going to get into the actual meat of the program where I can start communicating with the car. So then it comes up to the functions. So basically, health reports are like a full system scan. System selection would be if we want to go control module by control module, or special functions is something really cool where it has a lot of the AMDS special function capability. So let's just start by going into health reports. Now, I've got the OBD tool, the ThinkDiag, plugged in on the OBD port, which means it can talk to the engines, but it won't be talking to the door modules and things yet. So I've gone in here, and it's found 2 faults in the primary engine management system, no faults in the secondary engine management system. And I'm going to hit pause because it's going to try all the other modules right now, but I know I'm plugged in on the OBD port. So you can pause at any time and then come in and look at what it found. So I'm going to tap the primary engine module. I can look at the ECU information. I can read the trouble codes. So here's the 2 codes it found. And so one of my goals was I'd like to know not just the P code, P1000, but in plain English, could it please tell me a little bit more? And sure enough, it does that. System check not complete since last memory clear. So that's a pretty normal code to have. P1488, exhaust muffler bypass control circuit active. Well, yeah, I've pulled fuse 22, and if you pull fuse 22 to get that cool exhaust sound, you're going to get this code. But if you tap on P1488 and hit search, it's going to go out and try and look up the code and give you some more information. And I find this quite entertaining. It's taken me back to Aston1936.com, where I talk about P1488. So that's kind of neat. We can go back from read trouble codes. The feature you're probably really interested in is clear the fault code. And if you wanted to go ahead, you could clear the fault codes. I'm not going to bother right now. Read data stream. So if you wanted to look at the live data in the primary engine computer module, you could basically look through all the variables. 36-1 misfire correction profiles learned. You can look at the intake pressure, absolute throttle position. That's basically as simple. If you want to look at any of the variables in your car, you just tap, what gears the transmission request supposed to be in. What else we got here? Engine coolant temperature in degrees Celsius. We say okay. It's going to go out there and it's going to show me my engine cool temperature is 203 degrees. My automatic transmission is in first gear because I'm in park essentially. You can even sit here and record the live data if you're doing this while you're driving. You want to have a graph of the engine coolant temperature, you just tap the graph and it'll start graphing it over time now. And of course, right at the bottom here we have it basically saying, would you like to clear the diagnostic trouble codes? So that's pretty cool if we just use the health check. If we go back out of the automatic scan session, here we can get back up to the root. So once we're back at the main screen, we can basically go into reports. And reports are kind of cool. Anything we do where we go, like for example today, February 14th, Valentine's Day, it stores the results. So you can go back in and look at your results later. You can even, there are 2 issues. You can drill in, you can expand the report. Any live data that you were checking will also be documented here. So that's pretty cool. You're even allowed to share the report, so I can basically send it to my email address, and what it does is it sends a URL, so to whoever you send it to, they can download it and look at the results. So you could send that to your mechanic, your Aston Martin dealer, your specialist, whoever you work with, and go, hey, I've seen these codes. You can do it so right from your phone while you're on a roadside, and it would send them all the diagnostic information. Very cool feature to have in there. So if we go back up, we can go back into Car All Systems Diagnostics. So if you know which system you want to talk to, rather than doing a health report, you can go to System Selection, scroll down to your particular module,
So here's a list of all the modules: the driver information module, which is essentially the dash, center console module, the infotainment system module, brake control module. Well, the one I want is the one in the middle here, transmission control module ZF. That's the automatic. It connects right away to talk to it. I can look at the serial number of the module, but I can go to read data stream. So you can scroll down and select something of interest to you, whatever you're after. Well, I'm interested in transmission fluid temperature, so if we scroll down to the T's, we should be able to find it here, transmission oil temperature, and say OK. There we go, it's 163.4 degrees currently. So that's pretty easy to sit and watch your live transmission oil temperature if you're doing a fluid level check. So we can go back up, and we could switch to a different control module if we were interested in something. For example, if you wanted to go into the driver's information module, there's information about all the stuff that you might see on the instrument panel, like let's see the fuel level gauge. You can go in and look at the, right now I have 56.67% of my fuel tank filled up. So all that information is available to you. You can basically choose from driver information module, driver's door module, passenger door module. So the driver's door module, for example, I could go in and look at the various pieces of data we can retrieve from there. Is the door locked, unlocked? Is the door ajar? So we can go ahead and look at the live. Right now it thinks the door is shut. I open the door. The door is open. Close the door is shut. So you can basically test the switches in your on your car. So steering angle sensors, parking aid modules, headlamp modules. So this is really a tool where you can deep dive into each of the modules as you're trying to troubleshoot a problem. If we go back out of those functions, let's take a quick look at special functions. Now, there are a lot of things in here that are only I've ever seen before in an AMDS system. So let's have a look at what the AMDS has real quick.
The AMDS is the holy grail of OBD2 readers for the Aston Martin. And to help the technicians, they've developed a number of special apps and features and functions that are part of the application. So here is the special apps list for the latest version of the AMDS software. And you can see they've got applications for key learning and clearing, key fob learning and clearing. So that's if you want to buy a new key and you need to train it to the car, that's how they hook that up. There are things like the service indicator reset, misfire correction factor reading. We can look at the OBD2 monitors that is part of that misfire correction system. We can do things like the key on, engine on tests. We can read the car config file. That's the magic licensing file where Aston Martin turns on and off different components of the car. There's a neat one down here, DB9 power upgrade. I wonder if that's going to be in their tool. So anyways, here's the array of tools that the Aston Martin company has provided to their technicians. Let's see what we can do with the ThinkDiag.
Well, as you can see, the Aston Martin technicians are armed with an armada of special tools, but I was really surprised to find there are many of those same special modules built into this ThinkDiag. For example, the key learn process. Basically if you want to teach your car to count the keys or add a new key or erase a key that you've lost, looks like you have the ability to do that here. I'm not obviously going to do that because I don't want to wreck any of my keys right now. You can reset the service indicator light, and basically if this is how you do it, if you basically want to go in and turn off the service do now light because you've just completed one of your annual services. So I'm going to cancel that, but you could take care of that. There's a learn a new key fob, which you might be able to use if you've replaced one of your key fobs. Transport mode, if you're going to put your car into deep sleep, you'd be able to put your car into transport mode. Read the vehicle alarm causes. All sorts of really cool and things are available in here. Door utilities, so if you want to learn to calibrate your door, your window auto drop, you could do that in here. You can read your car config. So the Aston Martins are controlled basically by the factory which options are turned on or off by essentially this car config file, which is an encoded, encrypted file that they upload into the car to turn modules on and off or set configurations like whether you want your car to be in kilometers per hour, miles per hour, English, you want your auto folding mirrors to fold. So basically we can go in and actually read the car config file. Here you go. So it knows that I have a VH400 ZF 6-speed. I have 19-inch tires, basically left-hand drive, manual door mirrors, no memory mirrors, what frequency my remotes work on, what alarm spec, so I had a low spec alarm system, what my headlight aiming setup is, all sorts of information about my car is available in here because it's able to read the config file somehow, which I find is just amazing for a small little OBD tool. So another special function that many of you out there that are freaking out about whether your engine's misfiring, right here, OBD2 monitor results. If you go in here, you will find at the very top the magic misfire monitoring system. And I was surprised in my car to learn I can't look at my misfire data because the misfire correction factors have not been learned. And this is valuable knowledge for you. And I'm just going, oh yeah, that's right. My car was resprayed recently. I bet you the battery died while it was at their shop. And my misfire correction factors have not been relearned since. So I cannot look at my actual misfire data because you have to have your misfire correction factors learned. So now I know I need to go out and learn my misfire correction factors, do the coast down procedure. If you do this on your car, what you'll be able to see is your actual misfire information, which cylinders may be misfiring, that kind of thing. So really easy to get to that information. So the fact that this ThinkDiag has these special applications, this is the differentiator between it and all the other diagnostic tools I've bought since then. My Foxwell can't do this, the Autel can't do this that I've seen. This is an amazing set of features that might lead you to choose this OBD tool over any of the others.
Well, if the small size, the smartphone app and Bluetooth thing appeal to you, I'm sure you're sitting there wondering, well, what's this thing cost compared to the price of maybe a Foxwell or the AMDS? Well, you can go over to the blackboxmycar.com website, and this is available for about $120 US. There'll be a link in the description below. If you compare that, that's actually substantially cheaper than a Foxwell, and almost free if you compare it to the cost of the AMDS, which is over $10,000. So it's amazing how much of this has been distilled down into this one simple device. Essentially, when you buy the device for the $120, they give you one manufacturer's vehicles for 1 year. So this doesn't work for all models of cars on the road out of the box. Basically, they let you choose one manufacturer. So I chose Aston Martin. And if you have another car in your fleet, your wife's car is maybe a BMW or a Volkswagen, you can activate a second manufacturer on the device, and it costs about an extra $40 per year. So they even have a package, I believe, that's all manufacturers. So if you have a lot of cars or maybe you work at a shop, you can have all manufacturers enabled, and they have some price for that somewhere over on the ThinkCar website. Now, you heard me say per year, and this is one of the biggest things that makes me uncomfortable about the device. If you buy a Foxwell, you're buying it and it's lifetime activated. It does one manufacturer for as long as you own the device. This has got a per year service charge with it. It's a subscription model. So to keep my Aston Martin code going after the first year, I need to give them about another $40 a year. Now that's not a lot in the big scheme of things, but over 5 years, that's $200. That's enough to buy yourself a Foxwell. So that's something to consider as you weigh off the special features and things that this offers that the others don't. I've made no secret that an OBD2 diagnostic tool is an essential requirement in every Aston Martin owner's toolbox. Is the ThinkDiag the right tool for you? Well, it depends on what you need in your toolbox. If you don't really need to use any of the special functions and features that come with the ThinkDiag, well, maybe the long-term, less expensive Foxwell is all you'll need. If all you want to do is reset the codes and do your engine service light. But if the small size, the portability that it can ride in your glove box, the advanced special features that you can do with this particular tool really appeal to you, then this might be the right OBD tool for you. Hopefully you found this interesting. I'm interested to find out what OBD2 tools you use. If you want to tell me about that, please leave those in the comments down below. Down here, you'll probably find a link to the companion blog article where I'll talk a little bit more about where you can buy these, the registration process, and all the other aspects of the tool that I can figure out and write down for you. Up here, you'll probably find a link to one of my other OBD2 related articles. Down here, if you'd like to receive articles like this, please subscribe. And as always, I love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.